January. Where has January gone? I can't believe it. Anyway, let us know where you're tuning in from and say hello. We've got the lovely Jessie in the comments with us today. We've got Gina with us, wishing a happy Friday. Happy Friday, Gina. We've got quite a packed session to get through today. We've got not one, not two, not three, but 5 brand new record sets for you this week, and our new newspapers of the week too. And so our question of the week as well will be about newspapers, because it's me, it's newspapers. So our question of the week is going to be, what is your favourite discovery from our newspaper collection? So question of the week is, what is your favourite discovery from our newspaper collection? So have a think about that. We'll come back to it and just see who's joining us. We've got Ellen tuning in from a very chilly Roscoe. Sunny, but it's -4 Fahrenheit, -20. Gosh, that is incredibly cold. I was just going to say it's getting a bit warmer here in London. I don't know whether there is some kind of spring feeling in the air, hopefully. We've got Andrea from a chilly Stoke-on-Trent. Hello, Andrea and Sue. Anya, Gillian, hello everybody. It's good to see you. We've got a few people tuning in on YouTube as well. We've got Bob from Vancouver Island. Strong winds and heavy rain coming later. Stay dry, stay warm, everyone. I think that seems to be across the pond. We've got cold weather, and we've got cold weather over here too. And Shirley tuning in from YouTube. Hi Georgia, hi Cindy. So yeah, without further ado, let's get on to our new records of the week. And it's a corker as ever, and especially if you have links to the northeast of England. So we're talking about Northumberland and Durham. So I know our resident Geordie, Jessie, will be very pleased with our updates this week. Hiya Karen, hi Gillian, hi Roz. So here's our menu of new records for this week. We've got additions to Northumberland baptisms, marriages and burials, as well as to the Northumberland and Durham monumental inscriptions. So these are courtesy of the wonderful Northumberland and Durham Family History Society. So big shout out to them. And we've also got records for the Northumberland Fusiliers and new newspapers from London. Jessie there. Resident Geordie, every company has one. Well, we're delighted to have you, Jessie. Okay, so we're going to start off with baptisms this week, and we have over 13,000 brand new baptisms joining us, and they are from 6 different churches from across Northumberland. And they're a mix of different denominations. We've got Church of England records as well as Presbyterian records. And we're going all the way back to 1560 with these new baptisms. The year 1560 has been added to Earsden, St Alban. And our new Presbyterian records for this set come from Birdhope Craig Church, which is near Rochester. And I'm told it's a lovely place to stay. You can actually go and stay in this old church, a lovely part of the world. But by far and away, the biggest additions are the over 8,500 new baptism records that we've added to Christ Church in Tynemouth from 1607 to 1703. And I've just picked out a lovely view here of Newcastle from a painting by Thomas M. Richardson, which I came across in the Illustrated London News. Oh, this is a good week for Sandy over on YouTube. Her mum's family's all from Tyneside. This is the collections for you. Amazing. So let's have a look at an example of some of these records. And this is one from all the way back from 1571. And this is the baptism of Eleanor Goughton on the 10th of November, 1571. So that's over 450 years ago, which I think is absolutely incredible. So we get the date of her baptism, and this is from Earsden in St Alban. And we can also see that she is the daughter of Anthony Goughton. So we're on to marriages now, and we are in lovely Newcastle for our marriages. And I've got a soft spot for the Northeast. I was up at uni there for a couple of years. Very friendly people, and we've got over 300 new records for All Saints Parish in Newcastle upon Tyne. So this was part of the Church of England, and these marriages come from the years 1761 to 1771. And this is a view of All Saints from one of our newspapers, the Newcastle Chronicle, from February 1939, so just before the Second World War. And like the baptisms, this collection is transcription only, but we do get some lovely detail with this set. And this is the marriage on the 22nd of October 1770 of the wonderfully named Archibald Corkindale, I just love that name, to Mary Swan. And the witnesses are listed out here. We've got William Moorhead, David Hughson, and Robert Longstaff. These witnesses' names can be really helpful, especially in this era of pre-census records. So they can help you build out family groups. Perhaps one of these names is a relative or some kind of connection. So it really gives you a sense of those being married. In this time of pre-census records, you want to glean all the information that you can. So these witnesses can come in real use for your research. And from marriages to burials. And we've got 86 brand new burial records joining us this week from Our Lady in St Cuthbert in Haggerston, Northumberland. So this was a Roman Catholic church, and the burials come from the years 1813 to 1837. So Haggerston is a hamlet in Northumberland, right up in the northeast of the county. And this is one of the examples of the new burial records for one Elizabeth Moody. She died in 1833, and we get her date of burial as the 30th of April 1833, and we learn that she was 64. And from burials to memorial inscriptions, and we have over 5,000 new memorial inscriptions which span the years 1517 all the way up to 2020. So that's 500 years of coverage there. And they cover 7 different churches from across Northumberland and County Durham. And we've got a mix of Church of England and Roman Catholic records here. And the Roman Catholics records are for St Mary's Church in Hexham. The biggest additions to this collection this week are to Horton, St Mary, which is in Northumberland. And these are the ones that actually go all the way back to 1517. And we've also got several thousand memorial inscriptions joining St Cuthbert's in West Herrington, which is a part of Sunderland. And this collection actually comes with some lovely photos of the memorials themselves, the gravestones and the cemeteries. And this particular one here is from West Herrington, and I just love to see these, really get a sense of the atmosphere. I just find them very, very evocative. Maybe because I used to live next to a graveyard when I grew up in the rectory. My dad is actually a vicar, so I spent quite a few years in the graveyard growing up when I was younger. So here's a transcription from this set. This is for Margaret Curry, and that was Margaret's memorial that we were just looking at on the previous slide. And from the transcription, we learn the date of Margaret's death, which was on the 20th of November 1843, and she was only 37. And where the transcriptions come in really useful here is if the inscription is a bit hard to read. So the wonderful people at the Family History Society have transcribed this for us, because sometimes the stones can be a bit weathered and tricky to read. So these transcriptions can really help you decipher the old gravestones. But this particular story, this particular memorial tells quite a sad story, unfortunately. It reads, sacred to the memory of Margaret, wife of Robert Curry, who died November the 20th, aged 37. Also listed are Margaret and Robert's children, who sadly died in infancy: John, Elizabeth, James, and Isabella. And it's so important to have these names. These children won't have direct ancestors and might be missed in between censuses, so they can be remembered here too. And Robert Curry, he outlived his wife by over 15 years, dying in 1859. So I really find these memorial inscriptions really rich in detail, providing those family connections that may otherwise be lost. So our next and final record set of the week is the Northumberland Fusiliers. And for this collection, we've added some new records and given the existing ones a bit of a polish. So you might already be familiar with this collection, but we just give them this one a bit of a spruce up, fresh for spring. So we have over 100,000 records pertaining to the Northumberland Fusiliers. Now, this infantry regiment was founded all the way back in 1674 and was known as the 5th Regiment of Foot. In 1782, it became known as the 5th Northumberland Regiment of Foot, with the Fusiliers title then being added on St George's Day in 1836. From 1881 onwards, the regiment was simply known as the Northumberland Fusiliers, but popularly known as the Fighting Fifth. Now, these particular records span the years 1881 to 1920, and they contain the names of those who fought in the Fourth Ashanti War, the Sudan, the Boer War, the North Frontier, and the First World War. And during the First World War, the Northumberland Fusiliers were actually the second biggest regiment after the London Regiment. And during the conflict, the regiment received 67 battle honours, with 5 of its men being awarded the Victoria Cross. So you can find these men in this collection. And it came at a great loss of life for the Northumberland Fusiliers. 16,000 men lost their lives in all during the First World War. So what can these records tell you? So you get the name and residence of a soldier, their enlistment date and place, their transfer and discharge information, and whether they were wounded or sick. And there are additional notes which include information about medals and service record. And I pulled out this wonderful picture of the Fighting Fifth from May 1916 from our title, The Illustrated War News. This particular publication provides a wonderful pictorial record of the First World War. So they look quite joyous here. They're laughing with members of the Royal Fusiliers at St. Eloi, and they're actually wearing the headgear of the enemy. The captain says they've captured many German prisoners. So a lighter moment. And then now the Northumberland Fusiliers are known as the Royal Northumberland Fusiliers. So here's an example of a record from this collection, and it's that of Patrick McHale, who was born in Southbank in Yorkshire. We learn that he enlisted in Middlesbrough and that he was a private. We learn that he had transferred from the Army Service Corps into the Northumberland Fusiliers and then onto the Machine Gun Corps. So we get lots of information about his service. And then we learn, tragically, that Patrick was killed in action on the 25th of March, 1918, the last year of the war. And finally, we've got 2 brand new newspapers of the week joining our newspaper collection. And they're both for London, but serving north and south of the river. So for the south of the river, we've got the Wandsworth Borough News. And this is a really robust local newspaper. It filled 20 pages, so that was quite rare for newspapers of this particular time. And it covers areas in southwest London, such as Tooting, Clapham, Wandsworth, Putney, Clapham and Streatham. And I just love this ad from the front page of the Wandsworth Borough News for Grant's dental surgery. And there's a before and after illustration of this lady who's been to the surgery. And I must admit, I really struggled to tell the difference between the two. She looks quite happy in both. And then we also have the Comet joining us. So this is the Comet for Hornsey, Crouch End and Highgate, so for North London. It was a short-lived paper. It ran from 1888 to 1889, but it's a lovely little paper all the same. And we've also had updates to 23 of our existing titles. We've got really big updates to Guildford's Surrey Advertiser and also to the Lincolnshire Echo. Shout out to Bath as well. If you're interested in the history of Bath, we've got some really early pages joining the Bath Chronicle and the Bath Journal this week from the 18th century. I will stay on the subject of newspapers for our questions of the week, and I can see we've had a few answers coming through already. So the question is, what is your favourite discovery from our newspaper collection? And I actually can't believe I haven't asked this question before, given my predilection for newspapers. So let's dig into this. So we've got Janet here. Report in the Daily Mirror confirmed my second great aunt made front page. A carpenter was present during a brain operation. He had to reshape a piece of skull for the surgeon to replace afterwards. 1940. Oh my word, that's incredible. And making the front pages too. This is wow. And in a national newspaper as well. That must have been so remarkable to find. Let's have a look. Andrew. Finding my mum's grandfather sent to prison for 14 days, age 11. He had lost his dad when age 4. Perhaps a new stepdad a month later got him back on the rails. Oh my goodness. That, yeah, what a story there. We often sort of find in the newspapers tales of our ancestors up to no good, but it's quite difficult to read when it's dealing with a younger child who's been through so much, losing his father at the age of 4. Wow, thank you for sharing that, Andrew. We've got Ingrid. Oh, we're talking about a black sheep. Let's have a look. Finding the black sheep in the family. My paternal grandfather's brother was sentenced to 13 months hard labour for setting fire to his property, which he had recently transferred into his new wife's name for the insurance money. It even made the national newspapers. I also found an article from my maternal side of my family about my great-great-grandmother. It said what an upright member of the community she was. It even included a photo with her of some of her granddaughters and some of her daughters and granddaughters. They've got like two sides of the coin here with Ingrid. You've got the black sheep and then the upstanding members of the community, and to come across a photo as well, and that is gold dust. Wonderful. I think that I was trying to wrap my brain about what my favourite discovery has been over the years, and there's a very nice article in the Pall Mall Gazette, that was a London newspaper, about my 2 times great-grandfather. He was a Baptist minister from 1880 onwards, and it said how respected he was in the community in Colville in Leicestershire. And he had been a miner himself, so it was lovely to sort of read those words of affirmation. But then we also have the scandals, the black sheep, and we've got Cindy. Oh gosh, 3 times great-grandfather noted was found face down and ditched deceased. He had visited the pub and was walking home, fell into the ditch and drowned. Draw your own conclusion. Oh dear, Cindy. Oh dear. And the older newspapers, they don't spare any punches. You know, they can be quite graphic, especially with descriptions of death and gore. Oh dear, not a very nice way to go. We've got Anya, 2 times great-grandfather Albert Thomas Shirley wrote back to the local Wigan newspapers in 1900, published in 1901, about his experience as a miner in Borneo. He discusses his experience with the local people and local traditions. Really interesting finding this information through his eyes. That's amazing to have correspondence, to read the words of your ancestors and their experience, and newspapers just, they allow us to do that. So, you know, we learn stories around their lives, but to have their actual words is very, very special indeed. Gina, finding a photo of my great-great-grandparents celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary and their return from a life in Australia. Oh, that is so special. Especially in sort of newspapers I think we're looking sort of from 1930s onwards, we sort of see more and more photographs being included in local and regional titles. So it's always worth checking those types of newspapers to see if there's a photograph, but marking such landmarks as a 50th wedding anniversary. I think that's really special. See if we've got any more. And then my top tip with newspapers is always to keep checking back. We're adding so many new pages all of the time. So sort of in the last year or so, we've added millions. So there is always going to be new opportunities for searching and, new coverage. So that would be my top tip, and that's what I try to do, is to go back, and if I see there's a newspaper for around Colville, for example, my great grandfather, there'll probably be more stuff about him in there. So it's always worth having another search, because the newspapers are the gift that just keeps giving. Question of the week. Karen, discovered great grandfather Fred Pinchbeck was not only a headmaster in Tottenham School, but secretary for the Tottenham Baptist Church. Oh, amazing. I've got a teacher in the family, but he didn't become headmaster though. So well done, Fred. Let's see if we've got any more. So we've got Karen. I love this. Okay, so well, not because it's a very sad story, but the way that Karen's used the newspapers here to find out more about the cause of death. So Karen says, I had a death certificate for my great-great-granddad Daniel Ball, who died in 1881, aged 50. The certificate said he died in Manchester Royal Infirmary from burns. Oh my gosh. I immediately went to the newspapers because I figured a fire would make the news. Turns out the fire was the paint dye works where he worked along with the foreman. Daniel died 6 days after from his injuries. Oh my word. How tragic is that? But the way that you can use newspapers to add that extra layers, find out what happened, and that's a wonderful example of that. So thank you for sharing that with us, Karen. And we got Janet, this is sad. So this was the lady who was on the front page of the Daily Mirror. She died a couple of years later. She was 6 feet tall, and the hospital had to obtain a longer bed. Oh, bless her. Oh, that's really sad. Oh dear. And yeah, so I think you get a lot of obituaries, death reports in newspapers. The out of the ordinary deaths, or an obituary can be so useful as well in finding out sort of more information about your ancestor's life. And Sue Moon, finding the sad death of a great grandaunt. She was a servant and shook a rug over the balcony in Brighton. The balcony gave way due to poor maintenance repair. She landed on the railings below, broke her thigh, survived but died in hospital of pneumonia 2 days later, aged 30. Oh my gosh, that's horrendous. Poor lady. Oh. We've got Rita here with some more black sheeps of the family. Discovered that 2 great uncles were arrested as teenagers, and one broke out of the reformatory he was put in but later recaptured. Oh dear. And Gail, misbehaving ancestors, found great-grandfather's sister's trial for bigamy in Wales. Haven't found the outcome yet, though. Keep searching. Let us know what you find out there, Gail. Gosh, and then Janet. Oh, this is adorable. I found a report of my grandparents winning competition to find the most happily married couple in Boston. Oh, that's so sweet. I love that. Bless them. Bless them. And Sarah found a photo of my father with his mother. The only one I'm aware of they're together. Yes. I mean, sometimes the microfilm of newspapers isn't the best quality, but it's good to as a point if you want to go on and then try and obtain the original. So moving on. I promised the last time that I was on Friday's Live a month ago, a part 2 on breaking brick walls. But don't worry, I will recap. It's been a whole month. And just before I dig into this, I'm gonna say that this brick wall is sort of falling down. It's not exactly demolished. We are nearly there. But I do think it is a useful example in perhaps some sort of lateral thinking and sort of tying up of loose ends. So let's dive in. But we've got a few more answers to the question of the week coming through with Matthew. Great-great-grandfather William Baverstock was in the Islington Gazette in 1928 for assaulting his wife. She was also in the paper once for assaulting him. Both were fond of their drink. Oh dear. And yes, and Anya, I couldn't agree more with this. It's interesting how many of us found information on family members who died in accidents at work. I've had another 2 times great-grandfather in the newspapers. He was in an accident at work. He hadn't followed the health and safety and ended up having his head crushed in the machinery. There was an inquiry that was published in the papers. Absolutely. And I think it is such a sobering reminder of how dangerous work was. Every time, our ancestors stepped into a factory or onto the railways, they were risking their lives. It's nothing like today. It's very, very sobering. So I'm just going to recap on the little story that we looked at last month. So I've been looking into my partner's family tree, and in particular his grandmother's parents, which her name is June, she knows very little about them. So I was able to find June's birth record on Findmypast, which provided her last name of Singer and her mother's maiden name of Yerbury. But I couldn't find a marriage between a woman named Yerbury and a man called Singer. So I ordered her birth certificate from the General Register Office. So you can do that for a fee. It's a great service. And part of the birth certificate you can see here. Now, using newspapers, I was able to settle on a likely identity of her father, John Thomas Singer. But this is where I left it. We hadn't found the identity of her mother, who is named on the birth certificate as Alice Singer, formerly Yerbury. So this is where we're going to pick it up. So we have a maiden name of Yerbury. So I searched. Again, there's no marriages between an Alice Yerbury and a John Singer. So I tried to search for marriages between just an Alice and a John Singer, just in case Alice was previously married and using a different name other than Yerbury. And this returned only one result, and this was from 1905. June was born in 1941, so that's really useful information for the mother's age. So the latest a potential mother would be born in the 1890s. So a marriage in 1905, that's too early. We can rule that out. Okay. So this is where the brick wall raised. And this is where I got a bit stuck. And it just so useful. It just sort of illustrates how useful it is to have a marriage record. But where can we go without that marriage record? Well, we do have one thing, and that is a name. Alice Singer, formerly Yerbury. Searching for Alice Singer returns these few useful results. There are Alice Singers who are married to men who are not called John. It doesn't fit. I'm not getting anywhere with this. So let's step back and search for Alice Yerbury, given that we can make that assumption that that's her maiden name. And we can make a rough estimate from her age based off of the year of June's birth. And you can really sort of play around with those age parameters on the left-hand side of your search results as you go along. So initially, I opted for 10 years either side of 1910, but you can sort of refine those as you go along. And from these results, there were 170 of them, and there seemed like there were a few Alice Yearburys who could be a possible match. One, Alice Mary, who was born in Frome, which is actually close to where June was born, in Swindon, and where her father John actually lived. And she was born there in 1904. And another potential was Alice Florence Yearbury, who was born in Bedwellty in 1916. Now, I was able to discount Alice Florence quite early on. She marries in Bedwellty in 1938. And so Alice Mary seemed like a good other option for the identity of June's mother. But then again, Alice Mary marries and is living with her husband in Wiltshire in 1939, as per the 1939 register. So honestly, getting a little frustrated at this point, and nothing sort of seems to fit. And in my head, it's kind of a bit like a Cinderella syndrome, trying to squeeze that glass slipper on for a potential candidate, sort of make it fit. And I think in these scenarios, it's just good to step back, take a little break, concentrate on a different line of research, have a browse through the newspapers, maybe get a cup of tea. A cup of tea is always a good solution. And I did that because I was getting frustrated, and I do like to solve a mystery, as I'm sure we all like to. So I came back to the search results and noticed that one of the results for Alice Yearbury was Ada Alice Yearbury. Not a perfect match, but again, worth pursuing all the same. So Ada Alice Yearbury was born in Frome in 1910. Frome, again, a key location. And we can see her listed here in the 1921 census on the right-hand side. She's living with her mother, Lily, and her siblings at the age of 11. But then we find a marriage for Ada Alice from 1931 to Frederick George Garlick, which made me think, probably a dead end, but a dead end isn't dead until it's fully investigated. And a potential dead end might lead to some brick wall breaking. We've got Liam's joined us. Hello, Liam. Someone really scheduled another meeting for 4 p.m, so joining later today. How very dare they? And Janet's got another answer to our question of the week. Another relative made a local paper. He married his first wife 49 years after they were first married, divorced, both married others, then met again after they were widowed. He was economical with the truth, re-army service, name and age in most records. And Janet, funny you should mention this, because this particular investigation of mine deals with some economies with the truth. It seems that our ancestors did sometimes like to play with the truth. Okay, so I persevered with researching Ada Alice Garlick. Always worth investigating right to the end, so you can discount or discount or approve. So I persevered, and I found Ada Alice Garlick living in Frome in 1939 with an entry which is redacted, which potentially her son, I think. She had a son who was born in 1932. She's not living with her husband. I guess not too unusual since war had broken out, but something to note nonetheless. And she's in Frome. This is our key location. We have tracked June's father, John Singer, through the newspapers, which always give his location. And throughout the 1930s, he's based in Frome. And the last mention of him living in Frome is in March 1940. And this particular newspaper report, which I've included here, he was charged with possessing a revolver without a firearm certificate. He claimed, rather dubiously, that he'd picked the revolver up in a field and meant to take it to the police. Anyway, his address is given as Spring Gardens in Frome. So put a little circle there up there on that map. The map that comes from, that's on the 1939 transcription page. And Ada Alice's address is Milk Street, love that name, which is about a mile from John's address. And I know I'm sort of stretching this a little, and I think can be regarded as circumstantial evidence, but John and Ada Alice were in some kind of proximity in the same town in the run-up to June's birth. So this is where I turn to the newspapers. And we've got that wonderful facility on the Findmypast newspaper collection to search by first and last name. So I searched for Ada Garlick, and I got a hit for Ada Alice Garlick from the Somerset Standard from the 30th of August 1935. And now the first line of this article reads, Ada Alice Garlick of 44 Milk Street, Frome, brought a maintenance application against Frederick George Garlick, HMS Centurion, Devonport. So Ada tells the magistrates' bench how she was married to Frederick, who was in the Navy, and that they had a child. He had always come home to her when he was on leave, but on the 8th of June that year, 1935, they had argued and he had reduced her allotment to 10 shillings a week. Since then, she had not seen him, and on the 4th of July, she heard from him that he did not wish to see her again. He said he would not live with her again. And it's very sobering to read in these black and white lines the tale of a relationship turned sour. Ada's allowance had been 25 shillings a week, and the Admiralty actually only allotted 12 shillings a week for a wife and one child. So Frederick had been paying Ada more. But the magistrates' bench ruled that Ada should be paid the 25 shillings a week, and she was given custody of their child. And the article quite profoundly notes how Ada was quite willing to have her husband back. It's quite a sad little note. So upon reading this, sort of stepping back, again, my circumstantial evidence was stacking up. Ada Alice was in an unhappy relationship, most likely separated from her husband. And as John Singer was nearby, perhaps he provided some comfort. And Liam shared his answer to the question of the week. This is a lovely one. Finding a picture of my late mum's dad playing in a snooker tournament in the paper was lovely, especially as I hadn't met him and can only remember seeing one other picture of him. Wow, no, that is so special. That is really, really lovely, Liam. Oh, bless. Okay, so there was a twist in this tale as well. John Thomas Singer was married too. Not to Ada Alice. He had married in 1921 to a lady called Doris Thomas. And Doris is never mentioned in any of the newspaper articles pertaining to John. John is in the newspapers throughout the 1930s for speeding tickets, not paying his car insurance. And in 1939, Doris is living apart from him with their only daughter, with her parents in Tring in Hertfordshire. So my conclusion is this, that Ada Alice and John were in marriages that they could not end, perhaps due to the stigma that was still attached to divorce, the money that it cost, or for whatever reason. And they found each other. And perhaps Ada Alice became pregnant, and they moved from Frome to Swindon, which was a larger place. And then on Ada's daughter's birth certificate, she took on John's surname, although they weren't married, and then changed her own first name by adopting her middle name of Alice. But in another twist, because there's always twists, it seems that Ada might have actually reunited with her husband, as in 1945, a child is born with the surname Garlick and the mother's maiden name of Yerbury. Ada Alice Garlick passed away in Scotland, aged 73, in 1983. Meanwhile, John Thomas Singer passed away at the same age of 73 in 1962. He had been living with another woman who went by his surname, but again, there's no record of another marriage there. And his wife, Doris, had only passed away a few years before in 1959. So whilst this wasn't exactly my silver bullet for breaking a brick wall, this particular study serves to remind us that our ancestors weren't exactly always truthful, and they most especially weren't truthful in official documents where you think that they might have been. Just because it's a marriage certificate or a census, it doesn't mean that they were actually telling the truth. So they might be changing a birth year, a surname, a first name, whether accidentally or deliberately. And this particular instance, this particular brick wall, hinges on the potential fudging of both a first name and a surname. And this creates a smokescreen. Perfect if something needed to be hidden back then, but makes it really difficult for us as it builds up a brick wall for us to try and smash down. We've got more answers coming in for our question of the week with Ellen. Finding in the Illustrated London Times an illustration of an illustration by my maybe ancestor, Giuseppe Montesi. Wonderful. That's amazing. Imagine finding some examples of your ancestors' work in our newspapers. So I'm sort of staying in the Second World War era as we take a look back now to a collection which you might have missed. And this ties in with our new Northumberland and Durham records. And this is our Durham Home Guard records. So this set includes the over 80,000 names of those men who served in the Home Guard in County Durham throughout the Second World War. And it comes from our friends at the National Archives from series WO409, and it's transcript only. Now, I don't know about you, I'm sort of more familiar with the Home Guard through the comedy classic Dad's Army. So this organisation was set up in 1940 as a last line of defence against German invasion. So that was a very real threat. The force was initially called the Local Defence Volunteers, and in May 1940, the then Secretary of State for War, Anthony Eden, called for volunteers aged between 17 and 65. So these were men who were either too young or too old to be conscripted, but also included those who were unfit or ineligible for frontline service. So by July 1940, the name of the organisation had changed to the Home Guard. And throughout the war, 1.4 million men volunteered for service in the Home Guard, and some of whom even gave their lives. Indeed, over 1,200 men were killed during or as a result of a Home Guard duty. So what do these Durham records include? Well, we get the first and last name of the volunteer, their birthplace and year, as well as the name of their battalion. And there are some great photos of the Home Guard in action from the Findmypast photo collection, including this one of a 52-year-old gunner of the last war loading an 18-pounder. And you'll pardon this quick diversion into the Findmypast photo collection. I couldn't resist this. And you can search the photo collection by keywords, or keywords. I used Home Guard in this instance, and it returned lots and lots of wonderful pictures, including this image of the Home Guard, well entrenched, guarding a road in the English countryside, and that's from August 1940. And a top tip, if you're browsing through these images, if you head to transcript down there on the bottom right, and then click on the unnamed record, that takes you then through to a description of the photograph. So that's just really useful because you can get lost sort of just browsing through and you're like, oh, what's this showing? So you do have that capability to see what that photograph is about. But back to our Home Guard records now. And I was really interested in looking for those men who were serving at an older age. And I think thanks to Dad's Army, that's really sort of an enduring image of the Home Guard. And I came across William Nimmo as one of the older recruits in the Durham Home Guard. He turned 70 in November 1939. So imagine you're considering sort of retiring, or you are retired, and you're now volunteering with the Home Guard. And the chap here on the right isn't, unfortunately, William, but he was another member of the Home Guard in his 70s who is pictured within our photograph collection. And his name is Alf Halliwell, and he's from Bolton, and he was 76 when this photograph was taken. So I was curious to find out a little bit more about his counterpart, William John Nimmo, and he was born on the 18th of November 1869 in Castle Eden, Durham, and he was a brewer. So indeed, he ran J. Nimmo and Sons, which he inherited from his father. So that was a family business that had been going since the 1820s. And we can see him here on the top left in the 1921 census. He's 51, so he would have actually been too old to have been conscripted as part of the First World War. And below that, we've got the 1939 register, which was taken the end of September, so just after the outbreak of the Second World War. He's 69 and he's still working as a brewer. And there's an advert here from our newspapers here for the brewery, for J. Nimmo and Sons, for their Golden Sunlight Pale Ale, which I think actually sounds delicious, and also Watkins Stout Cream for Invalids. Novel way of treating the poorly, and that's from the Northern Guardian in December 1891. So you can tell that I've gone down the rabbit hole here with William John Nimmo. There's just some wonderful bits and pieces about his life from our records and the newspapers. He died in 1952 at the age of 82, and his death actually was reported in newspapers beyond the northeast. There's a little snippet there from the Leicester Evening Mail, and the headline is "Scatter Ashes at Brewery." So it says, Mr. William John Nimmo of Edenvale, Castle Eden, County Durham, died in April, aged 82. He wished to be cremated and the ashes scattered from the loading bank under the war memorial in the brewery yard after dark. And his wish made the press. So he seems like he was quite the character. From his obituary in the Sunderland Daily Shipping Gazette in 1952, we learn how he was the one-time chairman of the Durham County Cricket Club, president of the Castle Eden Cricket Club, which he actually founded. He served as a Castle Eden parish councillor for 50 years, and he was magistrate of the Castle Eden bench until he was 80 years old. And he was even going into the office in the weeks before his death. So this chap really served his community very well over the years, supporting the parish, the magistrates, and he joined, and I think his joining of the Home Guard was a real extension of this. And his brewery, J. Nimmo and Sons, became Castle Eden Brewery, and Andrew is actually has some very pleasant pints of Castle Eden, and Liam would quite like some pints from Nimmo and Sons tonight. Wonderful stuff. So just back to the Durham Home Guard collection now. I just wanted to look at the other end of the spectrum, the younger recruits. I pulled out this record for George Gage, who was born in February 1929. So when war broke out, he was just 10 and at school. So you can see that from the entry on the 1939 register there. And he was born in Gateshead, and he could have been evacuated like other children his age. And I found this picture in our photo collection of children on the 1st of September 1939 from All Saints School at the Gateshead station for evacuation. So technically you had to be 17 to be part of the Home Guard, but George might have joined being as a boy cadet, like the ones pictured here. So these boy cadets, they were aged between 14 and 17, and at 17 they would be drafted into the Home Guard. Now this picture shows a 14-year-old named Cadet Webber holding a Sten gun, as the other cadets look on. So perhaps George Gage did some similar training, and he passed away in 2006. So it's a really wonderful collection, the Durham Home Guard, that can sort of be brought to life even more through our photo collections and through our newspapers. So I really hope everyone enjoyed our journey through Durham and Northumberland today. I think Sue over on YouTube has some Northumberland and County Durham family. Looking forward to seeing if there's anything new for me. Have a lovely weekend searching through the records, Sue, and then do let us know what you find. Thank you so much as ever for joining me. We'll see you again very, very soon, and have a lovely weekend. Take care. Bye-bye.